Chicago's hair? The hair gel?
Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are no strangers to parenting criticism, especially when it comes to their two oldest kids. But lately, it's been impossible to ignore that how they treat their 6-year-old daughter, Chicago, is honestly alarming. The troubling reasons why so many people are worried about Kanye and Kim's behavior towards Chicago are absolutely bizarre, so let's break them down. Ever since Kim and Kanye called it quits in 2021, their co-parenting relationship has been an absolute roller coaster. They're almost always competing against each other, either by throwing shade or trying to make themselves look like they're the better parent. But sadly, they're both too self-absorbed to care that their petty behavior is negatively affecting their kids. Unfortunately, Chicago appears to be caught in her parents' drama. Recently, she's been in the limelight more often than ever before, which isn't just a coincidence. The amount of pressure that Kim and Kanye have been putting on her in just the last couple of weeks is downright shocking. According to TMZ, Chicago made her music industry debut on August 3rd when Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign's latest album, Vultures 2, was released. She and North teamed up to rap on one of the tracks, which was officially her first feature. But what happened nearly a week later was absolutely crazy. Chicago also joined her big sister on the stage at the album release party in Salt Lake City, Utah. At one point, the siblings danced and played patty cake under the spotlight as members of the audience cheered. North even picked Chicago up and carried her around for a little while before they both ran off to the side and left the stage together. It wasn't long before numerous media outlets started reporting about how Chicago was following in her father's footsteps, as well as her older sister. But what happened next was seriously outrageous. Soon after Chicago began making headlines for inheriting Kanye's musical abilities, Kim shared a strange series of photos to her Instagram. Hello magazine reported that her post had featured 3 black and white pictures of her youngest daughter. But even though Kim's update quickly received an insane amount of attention, it was obvious that many of her followers felt concern for the 6-year-old, and the reason why was truly bizarre. Believe it or not, the photos had been taken of Chicago while she was fast asleep, and all of them had been captured from different angles. Kim had clearly tried to give the picture a more artistic vibe by editing them with a monochrome filter, and in the caption of her post, she had written, "My Sleeping Beauty." In the comment section, numerous people called Kim out for invading Chicago's privacy. Others shamed her parenting and wrote that she should know better than to post photos of her sleeping young child on the internet. They made a valid point, since it's impossible for Kim to know whether the millions of people who have access to her public platform are viewing her content with good intentions. However, it wasn't surprising that the main focus of Kim's post had been on Chicago's looks. It seems like she's been trying for years to have more of an influence on her daughter than Kanye, in hopes that she'll grow up to either be a famous fashion model or some other type of beauty industry icon. But what happened the night after Kim shared the snaps of Chicago online was absolutely unbelievable. According to the Daily Mail, the following evening, Chicago took to the stage with her sister for a second time at another live listening event for Vultures 2. The performance was located at a venue in South Korea, and once again, Chicago's appearance ended up making headlines. Even though Kim hasn't responded yet, it's only a matter of time before she posts about Chicago's beauty again, or publicly calls attention to how similar they are in some other way. After all, she's made countless remarks about how pretty Chicago is since she was just a baby. According to People magazine, in October 2018, Kim appeared on an episode of Ashley Graham's podcast, Pretty Big Deal. At the time, Chicago was only 8 months old, which made Kim's revelations about her throughout the episode sound even more ridiculous. Kim explained that because Chicago was her first child to be born via surrogate, she was worried that she might not feel as connected to her as she did with her 2 oldest kids. But what she said right after that was seriously insane. Kim sounded weirdly proud when she mentioned that her daughter looked like such a doll and that she was basically her twin. She truly believed that because she'd been so nervous about not having the same connection to her baby, God decided to reward her by making Chicago look just like her. Many people felt that Kim's remarks were extremely harmful, since it did kind of seem like she was happy that Chicago looked like her instead of Kanye. As a result, they also accused her of comparing her daughter's appearances, since North looked a lot more like Kanye at the time. It also seemed like Kim was setting Chicago up for a lot of self-esteem issues in her future. If she ends up feeling like the only positive aspect about her is how she looks, that's going to negatively affect her mental health in a major way. But it wasn't long before people made a bizarre association between Kim and the comments she made about Chicago's looks. It's clear that Kim wants her kids, especially her daughters, to eventually become more involved in her massive money-making empire and someday take over her companies. But she probably knows that it would be helpful if Chicago had a future in the beauty industry as well, which is why she started planting those seeds before her daughter was even a year old. old. Elle magazine reported that Chicago officially made her debut in the modeling world when she was only 9 months old. She and Kim had appeared in an ad campaign for KKW Beauty, her mom's beauty line at the time. Not surprisingly, Kim received a lot of backlash for the photo shoot, partly because she wasn't wearing any clothing on the top half of her body. But that wasn't all. Kim was also accused by many people of exploiting her infant daughter and using her as a prop or marketing tool. But as disturbing and sad as that is for Chicago, it really shouldn't have been a shock at all to the public. Ever since Kim became a mother, she's made sure that her brand is closely tied to her family. She's been dragging her children, primarily her daughters, to high-profile events and sharing them on public social media platforms for years. Kim's success relies on her ability to stay relevant, and she's been using her kids to boost her fame and popularity for so long. She knows that posting them on social media will get her more engagement, and pushing them into the spotlight will maintain the public's interest in them. As a result, she also remains relevant and boosts her brand as well, which ultimately leads to more success. Kim has been keeping that cycle going for years, and usually, North was the one spotted with her. Now it looks like she's hoping to switch things up by bringing Chicago into the limelight more often. But even though Kanye might not be the marketing mastermind that she is, he's still definitely not innocent when it comes to pushing Chicago into the public eye. Some people believe that because of how controversial he's been for years, his rap career was barely hanging on by a thread. But when he started having North join him on stage and featuring her rapping on his albums, the public interest in her ended up helping him bounce back into the music industry. Still, a lot of people thought that North was too young to be performing alongside her dad and his peers at clubs, which is totally understandable since she was only 10 years old. So when he recently started bringing Chicago to perform at his events as well, it honestly seemed just as problematic and exploitative, if not worse, considering she's only 6 years old. Unfortunately, Kim and Kanye seem to thrive on getting any kind of attention, even if it's negative. That means that the only people who will be hurt by their selfish, petty behavior are their kids, especially when they're caught in between their drama like Chicago has been lately. Kim and Kanye are both in the wrong when it comes to how they've been treating Chicago. Whether they're doing this just to win a power struggle with each other, wanting to have more influence on her than the other parent has, or their insecurities about their relationship they each have with her, it's gonna have a devastating impact on her. Kanye and Kim are putting Chicago in a troubling situation by expecting her to show them more loyalty and side with them over the other parent. That's such an unfair burden for them to place on her, and it's most likely already starting to damage her emotional well-being. Chicago should be allowed to pursue her own interests and hobbies, not be pressured to follow in one or both of her parents' footsteps. If she keeps being trapped in between them and continues feeling torn on what to do, she's going to really struggle with establishing a healthy sense of identity. Hopefully, how she's being treated by her parents somehow stops before she ends up being subjected to any more of their harmful manipulation. But now that we've gotten to the heartbreaking situation that Chicago is in because of her parents' drama, I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on how Kim and Kanye have both been pushing Chicago into the spotlight lately, and how's that going to affect her? Do you think they're going to start doing the same thing to their youngest son, Psalm? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments below.